She said I'm a boring loser, that she deserves better. That's what came out of her mouth. Marla, my wife of 27 years, right there in front of nearly 40 people at our daughter's graduation dinner. Name's Jack. Jack Halstead. I'm 53 years old, and I work freight coordination for Ridgepoint Construction out of Springfield. Nothing flashy. I just make sure shipments get where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. If there's a problem, I fix it. That's what I do. Marla's words hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Nobody said a thing. My sister Erin froze with her knife halfway through a piece of chicken. My brother-in-law Ron set his beer down so slow I could hear the glass hit the table. And Tessa, our daughter, 22 years old, the reason we were all gathered there, looked like someone had smacked her across the face. But me? I wasn't shocked. Not really. I didn't expect the whole public performance, but I'd seen it coming. The leaving part, anyway. Marla hadn't been herself in months. Ever since she started working with that personal trainer, Chase, things changed. She started dressing different, staying late at the gym, acting like she was gearing up for some second act. Started using phrases like finding herself and living authentically. You hear your wife talk like that after nearly 3 decades together, you know something's brewing. And the strange part was, I didn't feel angry. I felt calm, like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally let it out. She kept talking, arms waving toward the bar like Chase was some lifeboat waiting to whisk her off to a better life. She told everyone how she'd outgrown me, how she needed someone who saw her potential. That's when I reached into my jacket pocket. Jack, Tessa whispered. Dad, what are you doing? I pulled out a plain white envelope. Just business paper, nothing fancy. Marla's name was written on the front in my own handwriting. This is for you, I said, and handed it to her. Marla stopped mid-sentence. She stared at that envelope like it might explode. The whole restaurant went dead silent. Even the busboys stopped what they were doing. What is this? She asked. Open it, I said. And she did. Right there, in front of everyone. I watched her face shift, first confused, then realization, and then something else entirely. Panic. Jack, she said, and this time her voice was small. Unsure. What did you? She started. Go ahead and read it out loud, I said. Since we're all being so open tonight. Her hands began to tremble. That's when I knew she got it. Knew exactly what she was holding and what it meant for her little stage performance. Maybe I should back up a bit and explain how we got here. Marla and I met in college. She was in communications, always the talker, always dreaming big. I was the logistics guy, steady, practical, showed up when I said I would. We balanced each other. At least, I thought we did. After we got married, I landed a solid job at Ridgepoint Construction. Good pay, steady hours, decent benefits. Marla bounced around. Marketing firm, nonprofit, tried her hand at real estate. Nothing stuck. She always said she was between opportunities, looking for something meaningful. When Tessa was born, Marla stayed home full-time, and I picked up the slack. 50-hour weeks turned into 60. During busy seasons, I'd push 70. I missed a few school plays, some parent-teacher meetings. Marla handled the day-to-day. I handled the bills, the mortgage, the college fund. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked for 20 years. Then Tessa went off to college, and Marla got restless. She joined a gym, got into self-help books, life coaching, all that find your truth stuff. And somewhere along the way, she found Chase, the trainer who seemed a little too eager to help her become her best self. It wasn't subtle. The late nights. The pricey workout gear that cost more than my steel-toed boots. The phone calls taken in hushed tones in the other room. I'd ask how her day went, and she'd brush me off. You wouldn't understand, she'd say. You're not exactly evolving. About 6 months back, I found a hotel receipt tucked under some junk mail. Bloomington, 2 nights, solo booking. I thought she'd been visiting her mom that weekend. When I asked, Marla said it was for a wellness seminar. Alone. For 2 days. That's when I stopped brushing things off and made a quiet call to Ron Vickers, an old friend of mine. We used to coach Little League together. Good guy. Smart, fair, straight shooter. I told him I had a what-if scenario about post-nuptial agreements and protecting assets. Just being curious, I said. Ron didn't buy it. He gave me that look and said, Jack, be smart. If this is heading where I think it is, timing's gonna matter. So I started watching. Really watching. Not just what Marla said, but what she avoided. The look in her eyes when we talked. The way she stopped mentioning our future like it wasn't even part of the plan anymore. Then 3 months ago, Chase came up in conversation for the first time. My trainer thinks I should change careers, she told me over dinner. He says I've got untapped potential. That night, I lay in bed wide awake while she slept next to me like nothing was wrong. Around 2 a.m., I got up, went in my office, and started moving money. Quietly, by the book. Into accounts Marla didn't know existed. Into trusts built to protect what I'd spent nearly 3 decades building. Because when your wife starts taking life advice from her personal trainer, you don't sit around and wait for the fallout. You get your house in order. 2 weeks before Tessa's graduation, I came home late from work and heard Marla laughing on the phone, light, carefree, younger than I'd heard in years. When she saw me, the laughter died like someone flipped a switch. I gotta go, she whispered into the phone. Yeah, tomorrow. She hung up fast and started fiddling with dishes that were already clean. I asked, who was that? Just Chase, she said. He was telling me about a new nutrition plan. Right. Sure he was. That night, I sat on the edge of our bed while she got ready in the bathroom. Same bed we'd shared for 27 years. I looked around and noticed something. Her side of the closet was half empty. When did that happen? I walked over to her dresser. There was a printed email half hidden under her jewelry box. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. It was a reservation confirmation for a resort in Lake Arrowhead. 2 guests. Check-in was set for 3 days after our daughter's graduation. Both their names were on it, Marla and Chase. They had this little escape planned out before she even had the decency to tell me she was leaving. I sat back down and just stared at nothing for a while. Not angry, just hollow. Sad for what we'd been. Sad for what we'd never be again. And sad that she'd chosen to set fire to our family on our daughter's big day, instead of just sitting down and being honest when it could have mattered. But under all that sadness, there was something else, clarity. I knew exactly what had to be done. I went back to my office and printed 3 things. The postnup she signed 5 years ago when we refinanced the house. Bank records showing all the transfers into the trust accounts. Documents revoking her access to our joint accounts effective the day after graduation. I folded everything neatly and slid it into a plain envelope. Then I went back to bed. She was already asleep, or pretending. I lay there listening to her breathe, and for the first time in years, I felt light. Like I'd finally dropped a boulder I'd been carrying around on my back. The next morning, she was all smiles, talking about graduation, the dinner, the dress she'd bought, who'd be there. Acting like the proud wife and mother one last time. I just sipped my coffee and watched her go through the motions. This is such a special day, she said. I want everything to be perfect. Oh, it will be, I told her. I tucked the envelope into my jacket pocket and headed out the door. Just another day at Ridge Point, coordinating shipments, solving problems, keeping things on schedule. Just another day at Ridge Point Construction, solving problems, lining up freight, keeping things on schedule. Meanwhile, Marla started screaming before she even hit the bottom of the first page. You bastard. Her voice cut through the restaurant like a fire alarm. You absolute bastard. Heads turned. The waiter froze mid-pour. A couple by the window set their menus down to stare. Is there a problem here? The manager asked, showing up out of nowhere, wringing his hands. Yes, there's a problem, Marla said, waving the papers like a flag. My husband just, she stopped herself, realizing she was about to lay out our legal mess in front of 40 family and friends. Please keep your voice down, I said calmly. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? Her laugh was sharp and bitter. You planned this. You knew I was going to. She trailed off, glancing around at Tessa, at my sister, even at her mother who'd flown in from Phoenix. Knew you were going to what? I asked. Her face flushed red. She couldn't say it, not without admitting this was a setup, her attempt to humiliate me in public. That Chase waiting at the bar wasn't a coincidence. This can't be legal, she said, her voice cracking. You can't just move our money. I didn't move our money, I replied. I moved my money under the post-nuptial agreement you signed 5 years ago. The one your lawyer insisted on when we refinanced the house. Ron, my brother-in-law, cleared his throat. Marla, maybe you should... Don't, she snapped. Don't you dare take his side. I'm not taking sides, Ron said. Just saying maybe this should be handled privately. But she wasn't hearing it. She stood up, still clutching the papers, and locked eyes with Chase, who was now trying to disappear into the bar crowd. No luck, 40 sets of eyes pinned him to the wall. "Tell them," she said. "Tell them what we talked about." Chase looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. This wasn't how they imagined it. "Marla," he said carefully, "maybe we should tell them how you make me feel alive," she snapped. "Tell them how much better you are than him." The room went dead quiet. Even the kitchen sound stopped. Chase shuffled over like a man approaching a wreck. He laid a hand on her shoulder. "Babe, let's just go. We don't need this drama." That's when I knew. This whole scene had been rehearsed. Her big exit. His quiet support. My public shame. Only they hadn't planned for the envelope. "You can go," I told Chase. "But Marla might want to finish reading. Page 3's important." Her hands were trembling as she flipped the page. Then her face went pale. "The house," she whispered, "is in Tessa's name," I said. "As of yesterday. Along with the cabin, the boat, and most of our savings. Proper estate planning gets a lot done." "You can't do this," she said, voice barely there. "I already did." Tessa finally spoke. "Dad, what's happening?" I looked at my daughter, smart, kind, nothing like the circus her mother was putting on, and said, "Your mother's decided to start a new life. I'm making sure she doesn't take yours with her." Marla dropped into her chair, eyes glued to the papers. The fight had left her. She was starting to realize, while she planned a dramatic exit, I'd been building her landing. "When?" she asked quietly. "When what? When did you know?" I could have lied. Said it was recent. But Marla didn't deserve soft answers anymore, and Tessa deserved the truth. "The hotel receipt from Bloomington," I said. 6 months ago. That's when Marla's mom, Marge, finally spoke. "What hotel receipt?" Marla shot me a glare that could melt steel. She hadn't told her mom about Chase. Probably hoped to ease him in after the divorce, make herself look like the heartbroken one who found love again. "She said she went to a wellness seminar," I said. "But the only thing getting well was her affair. And Chase was the guest speaker." "Marla," Marge said slowly. "What is he talking about?" "It's not what you think, Mama." "It's exactly what she thinks," I cut in. 6 months of lies. Sneaking around. Planning to torch our family at our daughter's graduation dinner. Chase shifted on his feet, uncomfortable. This wasn't the story they'd built. In their version, I was the boring guy who drove her away. She was the brave soul who finally chose happiness. They thought they were the love story. But love stories don't usually come with hotel receipts, secret calls, and lies to your own mother about where you've been. "I want to know everything," Tessa said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were glassy. "If you're going to blow up our family in public, then I want to know everything." Marla looked at Chase, then back at Tessa. "Honey, it's complicated." "It's not," I said. "Your mother's been having an affair. She planned to announce it tonight after graduation so she can spin it like I ruined the night by getting upset. Except I didn't get upset. I got ready." The silence was thick. Everyone sat frozen, like they were watching a wreck unfold right in front of them. Ron finally broke the quiet. "Jack, how long have you been planning this?" 3 months, I said. Since the night Marla said Chase thought she should change careers. "You've been planning this for 3 months?" Marla's voice cracked. "I've been protecting myself for 3 months," I said. "You've been lying to me for 6. That's when Marge stood up, Marla's mother. She's 78, barely 5 feet tall, but when she's angry, she fills the room. "Marla Elizabeth," she said, using that full name like Marla was a kid again. "You tell me what's going on. Right now." Marla started crying, not the angry tears from before, but the kind that show guilt. "I didn't plan for this," she said. I felt trapped. Jack works all the time. We don't talk anymore. I felt invisible." "So you cheated?" Marge's voice could have cut glass. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," Marla said, looking to Chase for help. But Chase was already stepping back, like the building was on fire. This wasn't what he signed up for. This was real, messy, and loud. "I think I should go," he mumbled. "Yeah," I said. "I think you should." And just like that, he left. No goodbye, no glance back. Walked out like he couldn't get away fast enough. Marla watched him go and broke down harder. The energy in the room shifted. The explosion was over, but the wreckage was everywhere. Marla wiped her face and looked at the papers again. "This can't be legal," she said. "Ron." I turned to him. He's a lawyer and he'd stayed quiet until now. The post-nup is airtight, Ron said. Jack's lawyer did good work. Infidelity voids any claim to shared assets after it happened. What about alimony? Marla asked. Don't I get alimony? Ron looked uncomfortable. Marla, you just admitted, in front of everyone, that you left Jack for another man. You gave him everything he needs for a fault divorce. But I gave up my career for our marriage. You worked part-time jobs, Tessa said softly. Dad paid for everything. Marla turned to her. Tessa, sweetie, you don't understand. I understand enough, Tessa said. You cheated on my dad. You planned to humiliate him at my graduation. And he spent months making sure you couldn't drag me down with you. Marge nodded. Your father's a good man. He didn't deserve this. Nobody's asking what I deserve, Marla snapped. That's because you threw that away when you started lying, I said. The manager came over again, eyes nervous. Folks, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're leaving, I said. I stood up, laid enough cash on the table to cover the bill and a solid tip for the staff who had to witness our disaster. Jack, Marla said as I helped Tessa with her jacket, we need to talk. We just did, I said. In front of everyone you wanted to impress. You got your moment, Marla. You told them how much better you deserve. Now you get to find out what that looks like, at 49, with no job, no money, and no husband. The house, the cars, the boat, the cabin, they're all in Tessa's name. You signed the papers that made that possible. I didn't know what I was signing. You did. Your lawyer walked you through every word. You just didn't think you'd ever trigger it. Marla looked around the table. All the friendly faces from an hour ago were now cold, disappointed, or just plain done. Mom, Marla said to Marge. Marge shook her head. You made your choice, Marla. Live with it. I kissed Marge goodbye and shook hands with the men. My sister Erin gave me a long hug. You okay? She whispered. I will be, I said. Tessa and I walked out together. Marla called after us, but we didn't look back. Out in the parking lot, Tessa finally broke. I'm so sorry, Dad, she sobbed. I'm so sorry she did that to you. I held her while she cried for the family that had just fallen apart in a room full of strangers. This isn't your fault, I said. None of it is. But graduation was supposed to be perfect. It was. You graduated with honors from a good school. That's what matters. The rest is just noise. We stood there a long time, watching cars come and go. People out having regular dinners. People not lighting their lives on fire for an audience. What happens now? Tessa asked. Now we go home, I said. And we figure out what's next. 3 days later, Marla called. Jack, we need to talk. About what? About fixing this. About working things out. I was at my desk at Ridge Point, lining up a shipment to Omaha. Regular work. Regular problems. There's nothing to fix, I said. You made your choice. Chase and it's not working. He says I'm too old for him. I stopped typing and leaned back. That's not my problem. Jack, please. I made a mistake. I was confused. I'll sign anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll do anything. You'll do anything? Yes. Then don't call me again. And I hung up. An hour later, my lawyer called. Marla's attorney wants to meet. Why? She's saying the post-nup was signed under duress. I laughed. Out loud. Ron Vickers witnessed that signing, I said. So did 2 bank officers. And she had her own lawyer. I know. It won't hold up. But she's also asking for a settlement conference. Tell them she can have whatever she brought into the marriage. Her clothes, her car, and the debt she racked up buying gifts for Chase. That's it. That's it. The next morning, Marla showed up at the house. Our old house, now Tessa's. I'm not letting you in, I said through the door. I just want to talk. Then talk. I know you hate me, she said. But Tessa shouldn't suffer for my mistakes. She's not. She has a house, a trust, and a father who didn't walk out on her for a personal trainer. Jack, please. Go home, Marla. I don't have a home. I opened the door just long enough to look her in the eye. 3 days since the restaurant, and she looked like she'd aged 3 years. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Wearing clothes I hadn't seen since the early 2000s. You should have thought about that, I said, before you called me a boring loser in front of our daughter. Marla started crying again. I know it was wrong, but I can't take it back. No, I said. You can't. I shut the door and went back to my coffee. Normal coffee. In a peaceful house. 6 months later, I was out back fixing the fence when Tessa came out with 2 beers. How's school? I asked. Good. Mom called again. Marla had been calling Tessa once a week since the divorce wrapped up. Tessa would always listen, then come tell me what was said. What did she want this time? She's working part-time at a fitness center in Crestfield. She wanted to know if she could come for Christmas. What did you say? I told her she made her choice. I nodded. That's my girl. We sat on the porch and drank in quiet. The yard looked better than it ever did when Marla lived here, complaining about every little thing. Do you miss her? Tessa asked. I thought about it. I miss who I thought she was, I said. But not the woman who stood up in a restaurant and tried to chase us for applause. Good, Tessa said. Because Chase dumped her. I looked at her. How do you know that? Rebecca told me. She works at the gym. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. It's not funny, Dad. No, I said, wiping my eyes. It's perfect. We finished our beers and watched the sun go down over a yard that was finally ours. Just us. No drama. No lies. No personal trainers. Marla got exactly what she wanted, a chance to see if the grass was greener on the other side. Turns out, it wasn't.